Well, actually, I was hired on the show about a day after I auditioned for it. But I had enough time to read like a good half to 3/4 of the first book because I like devoured.
They auditioned 30,000 Fijis apparently. I just found that out. 30,000. I didn't even know 30,000 actresses existed in the world.
I know, right?
Yeah.
They had a hard time finding just the right dork.
You feel very proud of yourself.
Yes, my mom always said I was one in 30,000.
That's right.
That's really interesting to know. When I first looked at the project before I even read the script, just the description, I was like, oh, that's me. And then, when I read the script, I was like, well, that's totally me. And then I started reading the book, and I was like, that's 100%. This is me. This is me. This is me. This is insane. So like my connection to the books was very strong. I really enjoyed going on the adventure of on the adventures of all the characters. Yes, I don't even know if I'm answering your question.
No, you did.
Okay.
And she listened to the audiobooks.
I did both, and I have to say, I actually started re-listening after we wrapped completely. A few weeks afterwards, I was with my mom and we started listening to the audiobook, and I was like, this is so exciting because now everybody's faces. So even though I'd read it before and now I've acted everything and I've seen all the scripts, it was actually fun to revisit it, even though I know exactly what's going to happen. It was because I think this is the thing about Midnight Texas is it's a town you want to live in. It's like that. It's a weird place that you want to stay, and I feel that way. And a lot of times, during shooting, people would say, I wish I could live here. I wish I could just stay here. Thank you. It's just such a it's just there's something warm and cozy about it, even as it's trying to kill you.
And where did you actually film?
We filmed in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque, which was great because it really lent to the aesthetic of a small town in Texas, and there's a beautiful stage there that we used where they filmed Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, all sorts of stuff. We built the replicate we shot in a town called Las Vegas, New Mexico for our exteriors, and we actually built a replication of the town on the back lot of the studio, which was
real.
And it looked to a T. It was it was perfect. So. Yeah, it was really great. We didn't like shooting the exteriors too much because it was really cold in New Mexico.
The weather in Albuquerque.
It's freezing. It's like desert mountain. It's insane. But it was fun. We got to do a lot of craziness back there. We got a good time there. Good food, good eats.
Good times.
Yeah.
Really
I know.
good times.
In the panel room, they were talking about red or green chilies.
I know. Yeah.
That was hilarious.
No one knows what that was.
Yeah. I when she said she was from New Mexico and she was like red or green, I was like, she's talking about red or green.
Yeah,
chilies.
absolutely. Yeah.
Other people were like, what
the heck? Yeah.
So in the very first episode, at the picnic, your character, Fiji, is kind of longingly looking at Bobo as he's barbecuing. Yeah.
He's a very good barbecuer. That's why. Mostly.
Yeah.
She was definitely ogling your barbecuing.
I liked the thighs, the chicken thighs that he was doing. Because I was hungry.
So as the season progresses, will we find out some of that backstory? Because there obviously seems like there's a friendship between the two.
Oh yeah. It's a deep friendship. Yeah, they're best friends.
Yeah, and you're gonna see, every friendship has its ups and downs. In Midnight Texas, our ups and downs are rather extreme.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get to see the journey of our friendship, which is really gonna be tested by our pasts. Everybody in Midnight has secrets, and you'd like to think that with your best friends you don't have them, but we probably do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of our scenes are really, really sweet.
So sweet.
She pulls me off the edge so many times, and
she brought you breakfast.
I know, but as the series progresses, she does more.
I'm an amazing friend.
Yeah, she makes a great shepherd's pie as well. Bobo loves her cooking. He's sucker for her cooking, and the quickest way to a man's heart is through food, isn't it?
It's not working. Let's just say, he has no idea how I feel about him, and for an extremely good reason that you're gonna find out.
I don't want to say why he doesn't know, but
it's
you'll find out later on.
You'll find out later.
Yeah. We don't want to spoil too much, but we loved working off of each other, and the relationship that they developed for these two characters was really great to play and really sweet.
So Bob is going to put on weight then during the show.
He's going to what?
Put on weight then during the show.
Well, he also
Please don't do that to me. Oh my God.
He does a lot of
have to
hard
do
work,
that.
and he works off all the things I bake him. It's fine, And
Putting up
he-
things on the high shelves in the pawn shop.
Yeah. And maybe some of your secret dealings.
Oh yeah,
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, Bobo's pretty shady. There's some shadiness with his past.
There's some shadiness in his
Yeah,
past.
yeah. Everybody's
Yeah.
got it at midnight.
And the thing is, it's like, what I think is really interesting about the way that Midnight Texas is written, the books and the series, is like these things, these challenges that we're having are things that you can really look at in the lives that we live in reality and go like, oh, okay. When you find something out about somebody that's not what you expected, not what you wanted to know, like, can you come back from that?
Well, I
Can
think
you
Fiji really puts Bobo
love
on a
that?
pedestal that maybe he doesn't deserve. So, which a lot of people
I
at
can
midnight,
relate to that
which a lot of people
in
at
real
midnight
life.
do. Yeah. So, in the book, he's described as a guy covering his sadness with a big smile, sad eyes with his constant smile. So,
And muscles and handsomeness. Does it say
don't
that in the
make
book?
me blush.
Will we be meeting her talking cat during this season?
Can I say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a big portion of your season?
You definitely see Mr. Snuggly. Mr. Snuggly shows up at like all the right times.
And he's so inconsiderate.
He's a jerk.
He makes us all
put that on
sneeze
record.
with his dander and get watery eyes.
He's a diva.
He's a
He
diva.
wants everything his way. We
Bigger
always have to
trailer
wait
than
for
all
him.
of us.
It's like here's your mark, Mr. Snuggly, and he's like, psh, marks.
I don't hit marks. Who does marks?
Marks.
Yeah.
Spit on marks. But he's handsome too.
He's
so
very
that's
handsome.
good.
He's
He's a
a
handsome cat.
very handsome cat.
He's he chooses food.
I
well.
relished my scenes
He
with
has
him.
good qualities.
Yeah.
He's not the nicest to me.
No.
And that's the thing. That's the fun of Mr. Snuggly and his relationship.
Because
with
all cats are
Fiji.
snarky, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he wasn't a chosen cat. He was a gifted cat.
Yeah.
And so Fiji also gets to deal with him, and there's a lot of love there, but there's sometimes you just want to stick your tongue out. I'm sorry.
About Bobo and his fiance as the season begins, kind of what his state of mind is at the beginning of the season.
Well, she's the beginning of the season. She's already been missing, I think, for like 2.5 weeks, and she just disappears mysteriously. And he's worried. He doesn't know what the heck's going on. But they had a big fight, a big blowout. So he thought she might have just left town. That's why he tries to enlist Manfred with his psychic abilities to help him find her. And then when she's died, he's devastated, gut punched, but at the same time, he starts to figure out that maybe she wasn't there for love. She wasn't. There were some nefarious reasons as to why she kind of was in his life. So and then it just progresses from there. As the
Is that
season.
going to stick with him throughout the season? Like the
A big
what
part of the
happened,
season.
the
Yeah,
truth? Is that gonna stick with him?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's there's a crazy reveal later on in the season, but yeah, it definitely sticks with him. But Fiji's usually always there to comfort him as well.
And she's also terribly grieved by the death of his fiance.
She's
really.
so happy about it. Fiji
mean,
didn't
she
trust
was-
her from the start.
just
So
saying.
yeah.
Do we learn during this season why they have all chosen to move to Midnight Texas?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely see.
Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you very much.
I think that here's the thing. I think books, television, film, they're all different mediums and they require different things. When I read the books, I fell in love with these characters. I fell in love with the town of Midnight. In terms of the plot of the books, there was a small town pace to the story that just by virtue for being a network television, and Charlene and I have talked about it and she understands, that it needs like a little bit more engine. So for me, I think of them as two very different things. I love the books and I love the show. And they have a really different energy, but the characters are the same and the world is the same and the themes are the same. So I'm hopeful that people can read the books and love the books and then see this version of the books brought to life, and it's not exactly the same, but it still fills the need. And I think that the characters, their hearts are really similar. I tried to keep the spirit of who they were very close to the book, so hopefully it won't be a disappointment.
So for people who haven't read the books, I've seen the first 2 episodes, and there's the supernatural aspect is not traditional in some of the ways. Can you talk a little bit about how these, like the vampire, for instance, it's not your typical vampire. Like,
No.
so what's the lore behind these supernatural
Well, I think
characters?
we learn every episode. You'll learn about a new character. So episode 2, you'll learn about the Rev and why he's freaked out by the full moon. And so I think that what we do is take one episode to sort of unpack each character. So episode 3, you'll learn about Lem, and Lem is a very untraditional vampire. He both can have blood. He also leeches emotion, leeches energy. And we learn how that came to be for Lem. So I think we try and sort of explore why they're different versions of this. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, I floundered there by the end. Yes.
I think the first episode, when watching it, I also was able to see it in the panel. There's a lot of elements of sexuality, and there's also a grittiness that isn't really fully explored as much as it could be on like a network like NBC.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why you NBC chose to have this type of show? Because I think if, like, for True Blood, the books were very violent and had so much blood and gore, and so HBO was able to kind of explore that kind of realm. And I think with Midnight Texas, I loved the show, the first episode, but I feel like there could be a little bit more explored, but maybe not because it's on NBC.
Well, I think that one of the things, and one of the reasons why I wanted to develop this for NBC is when you read the books, it's about community and love. True Blood was always about desire, sex, and blood. Like, it really was. That was the theme from that first frame where they come in with the blood. Like, that's the... And so we're dealing with a different theme. So when I read the books, I was like, this is a theme that fits perfectly on network. Like, we don't have to shortchange the story, because when you read the books, it's not as if they're very violent or very sexually explicit, because that's not exactly this metaphor it's trading on either. It doesn't mean that our characters don't have sex, and there's a lot of desire, and there's a surprising amount of violence that I'm surprised we got away with. But it's not in the same vein as True Blood, because it's not the same metaphor we're operating under. Because I did, when I read the books, when I first got the books, I was like, well, can you even do a Charlaine Harris thing on network? But when I read it, I'm like, there's absolutely no reason you can't do this book on network. There's nothing in the books that is saying to me. And, you know, we push the envelope as much as we can, and I've been really grateful that the network and the studio have been supportive.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was great because I couldn't believe, I was like, wait, this is going to be on NBC, because the scene with Lem and Olivia's character where he asks her if he could take, you know, some of that pressure off of her, and I was like, is this really going to be on NBC? I was like, this is fantastic.
It's amazing.
So
And
I know that there's that undercurrent of sexuality, and then there's also that grittiness, so I was just almost surprised that NBC was willing to like have that much in there, because usually you see stuff like that on
but
bigger.
they're also the network that put on Hannibal for many years. So it's like they have pushed the envelope before, and I think they're letting us do a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Is there a character from the book series that was particularly difficult for you to adapt into a television series?
Mr. Snuggly, because it's so time-consuming and expensive. But he had to be in. He had to be in. Like, it would have been weird. It's part of what makes this book series different than True Blood, that there's a whimsical quality to this world also, and a wish fulfillment to this world. It's like, after I read the books, I'm like, I want to live in midnight. I want to be able to go to Fiji store. So I think that not really. I mean, it's been a real experience, because also we've adapted some of the characters for the people we cast. So Fiji's backstory is a little different than the Fiji in the book, and Lem's backstory is a little different. But also I tried to keep similar things. So Lem in the book, who was a sort of Gollum-like white character, he came from Texas. He was an old Texan. So we, when we explored Lem's backstory, we kept him an old Texan. But his backstory would look very different considering Peter Mensa versus in the book. So we tried to sort of keep the heart and then adapt accordingly to who we cast and how we were evolving the stories.
How involved is Charlaine in actually the series at all, or is she?
She came to sets. I've talked to her, but I mean, it's funny, when I first met her, she's like, look, I've been through this on True Blood. This is your show. I have my books. And she understands it, and so she's been super supportive. We send her every script. But in terms of, I have a wonderful group of writers who all read the books, and then we sort of just took it from there.
And we often see, especially on TV, that when you talk about the undead and the difference between the living and the dead, you usually see the dead as being the bad guys, the living as the good, fighting for their sort of living freedom. Is it going to be the same in Midnight Texas, or are you going to have sort of pockets of the undead helping the living?
Yeah,
and vice
no, I
versa?
feel like for me, the living, because Manfred sees the dead, they're like us as humans. Harold is petty and mean and upset his wife is moving on. Zilda's protective of her grandson. Like, people are, their souls are who they are. They're just, unfortunately for Manfred, in the body that died. But I think that, one of the things that was important to me is that our ghosts aren't just spooky, because we live in a world of monsters. Our vampires aren't the scary ones, our witches aren't the scary ones, so our ghosts shouldn't be the exclusive scary ones. Some ghosts are awful, but some are kind, and some are just lonely, and, Aubrey just wanted help. And what I love is playing with that trope of, holy shit, there's a ghost. But it's a sad lady who just wants some help. So I like upsetting the expectations of what you think a ghost is going to be versus what it is. And for Manfred, ghosts are all things.
Can you talk a little bit about the scene with Aubrey going to Manfred for help after she's found that scene? How was that filmed? Because it was so incredible, and just the way the actresses, the water is coming out of her.
It's amazing. That was a feat of movie magic. First of all, we had to build a room that could sustain that amount of water, so it had to be waterproof. Shannon,
Was it
our actor,
prosthetics, too?
she was in a fat suit, and then the dead body overlaid on it, because if a body's been in water for that long, it would.
Yeah, it's
So we're trying to be realistic.
Yeah.
Among our dead.
Yeah.
And then there was a tube connected to a tank, so there's literally a man following her with a tube with a wire that goes in through the prosthetic and dripping water, and then we had to CG all that out. So it was a lot. It was a lot, but she was amazing. And you got so much sadness in her dead eyes. Like, you felt for the dead girl, which was important to me, that it's not just a body, that there's a story behind that body, because for Manfred, those are the people he talks to.
And there's conflicting stories about Aubrey's background. So
Yes,
it's like,
and we'll learn more about that.
Yeah. Like, do you have empathy for her, or do you think that she got what she deserved? It's very hard to decipher, but at that moment when she's like reaching out.
Right, he wants to, you want to help her.
Aw.
And I think one of the things that's in Charlene's book that we try really hard is every character in Midnight has been evil at some point or bad. And human beings can change, and people can change, and no one begins and ends in that one event. And so these are characters who are looking for redemption, and we'll learn that all their histories aren't great, but they've changed. And so it's important to always, for us to always just not characterize people as villains or good, but where are they in the desire to be different, or to be good, or to be human.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So,
She brings the ass kickingness.
yeah, it's a technical term.
It is.
You're gonna coin that ass kickingness.
Ass kickingness. That's
You
mine.
should.
I've got
You
witnesses.
should.
Yeah.
Hashtag it.
Hashtag ass
So
kickingness.
in the first episode, we find out a little bit about each character. We find out that Bobo and Olivia are both human, but you have some skill sets that seem kind of fast. Are there going to be some more backstory about your character, obviously being human, coming into a city where it's just full of supernatural entities?
Yes, there's definitely a backstory, and actually, as the season goes on, we learn about each character, and each character has a dark past, and it's kind of like what is that past has brought them to Midnight. And with my character, she has had an incredibly traumatic childhood,
which has led her to not trusting people, to having huge anger issues, and also to doing what she does for a living. But what I loved about her is she does what she does because she's fighting the good fight, and she protects the people she loves. And she doesn't say I love you, but she says it by protecting them. And so there's still so much good in this person that's had so much bad happen to them. And that's what I love about her.
Nothing says love like a bullet.
You know?
Coining that one as well.
You talked a little bit about your character was not supposed to fly for some reason. We don't know why. But can you talk a little bit about like what his secret is, or without why it's so?
No, I think I can give that one all the way away. We're in midnight to avoid the world, and so many of us are there hiding for our supernatural selves if we can. Some of us can't. She's like her, she's just stunning. I mean, you can't hide that. But
I paid him to say that. Oh my God, look, it's a little mini me, Mike.
So he's there because he doesn't want to engage the world at the level of his being an angel. He is trying to live a life just simply and humbly.
But he's going to be forced into it with
Well,
Arielle.
damn it, things happen, and you're just gonna have to watch to find out why.
So was it like the first time you saw the effects in place and yourself with those wings?
Oh, good, really good. I was, you're hoping that it's gonna look good, and because I can't control that, and I had to shoot the pilot scene in 30-degree weather at dawn, 27
Albuquerque
actually.
weather is really tough.
27 degrees. I guess I did 17 on the show though. Dylan Bruce said it was 17 that night.
I believe it.
So, you're hoping that, I did some body things and pretended like they were coming out of me, and I was hoping I didn't look ridiculous, and it didn't. I thought it looked great. So,
I think in the panel they were saying something about, pardon me, your nipples being like time.
yeah, that's our wonderful cast.
People often reference his nipples and his six pack.
That's just because I have loving cast members like Dylan. Dylan's very colorful with his language. I'm sure you've already experienced that.
Yeah, the panel was fantastic. When he said that, I was like, why is
He's
this-
amazing.
Yeah.
Did you go and read the books after you got cast, or
I
were you
did.
familiar with them at all?
I did. I read. I was not familiar with them before. When I auditioned, I knew it was based on a book series, so I was aware of them then. Once I got the part, I immediately bought both books. The third one actually was on its way to coming out, and then when it came out, I bought that as well, and just started diving into research. But I actually feel like every cast member read the books immediately and did their own research.
I remember hounding Charlene when she came for the pilot, maybe we could get a sneak preview.
That's so funny. I was the opposite. I was so in love with her and so blown away that this woman wrote all of these books, and I was like, I'm not going to ask her anything, and if she tells me to tweak anything, I will, but otherwise I'm just going to love her and say hi and leave. I was kind of starstruck.
With your character, there's a lot of physicality with Olivia. So did you do any specific type of training for this particular role?
Non-stop, yeah.
I did, yeah. I did 2 to 3 hours of training a day. So I would go from weapon training to fight training to fight choreography to conditioning. And so I was doing everything from learning how to do different weapons to kickboxing, boxing, you name it. And I really wanted to, for me, it wasn't just about the fight scenes, it was about Olivia lives in a world where she has to be prepared at any moment for anything. And so I wanted to feel that from the inside out. The only way I knew how to do that was to train myself, not only to know these moves, but to also kind of live in a place where I could constantly feel like I had the self-protection I needed. I had the self-defense I needed to. And so I told John Koriyama, who was our stunt trainer, who's taught me everything I know. He's my man. And he took it pretty seriously. He pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And I was taking ice baths and the next day when I didn't want to work out, he would make me work out. He would just like bring me some sore muscle treatment. So we really went for it. But I was so grateful I had the opportunity. I learned a lot, and I hope that it shows throughout the season.
I was gonna say, the end result is fantastic. So,
Thank
and then
you.
of course you already knew how to fly, so it was like
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So natural.
Yeah, that was all practical. Me. That was me.
It's part of what got him the job.
Yeah. Just like this work, guys.
yeah. I'm just gonna flap my.
Adorable. Can somebody please take a picture? Will you take it?
Yeah.
Of me holding. Do you mind if I hold this? I really need this, and I need them in the background, like, because this is amazing.
All I knew of Charlene Harris's work via mostly the Saki Stackhouse series, but I mean, as soon as I mean, right after I read the pilot script, I got the first book and read the first book before shooting the pilot. Then I was sort of waiting. I didn't want to jinx it, so I sort of waited till the series got picked up to continue on. But then after a conversation with Monica, I decided against reading the other two books because even though there are elements from the third book, even in the pilot, I know that she wanted to depart from the book's plot lines, even though I think it remains true to the essence of the novels. I didn't want to like have to grieve over like plot points that I grew too attached to. So I wanted to make Manfred my own and not feel too much pressure to be faithful to the character on the page. But
So for your character Manfred, he's obviously a psychic. Was there any like research that you did as far as researching how like psychics work and things like that?
yes, I met a few actually. I met one in particular that I felt was very warm and open and welcoming to me, called Psychic Anna in Albuquerque, where we shot the pilot. It all happened very quickly for me. So I think I booked the role, and 3 days later we were doing prep in New Mexico. But she didn't give me a reading, but I sat down with her for a few hours, and she sort of walked me through all of her process, and also told me about other people. So I just took a little bit from a few different people as to even like the technicalities of giving someone a reading, like using different props, either cards or a ball, which we don't do on the show, but yeah, some of that.
Manfred seems to really like just accept what's happening in Midnight. Is there a point where he becomes skeptical of things, or does he just say this is all real?
I think it's just like gripping enough to just sort of takes him by the throat and doesn't really give him a chance to be skeptical about it. He's lived with supernatural powers and ghosts his entire life, which we'll see in a future episode. Actually, we go back to Manfred's childhood, and we also see Zelda's character as a living person. Manfred is a little boy. I don't get to play the little boy, sadly, but it's a very moving storyline. I'm sorry, what was the question?
He just kind of accepts
Right.
what's happening in Midnight.
I think he's sort of shocked by it and constantly thrown around. But I don't think I don't think he doubts it. I think it's funny because I think it's a personality trait of his. I think if he didn't have any powers himself, he probably would be skeptical of all of that. He's a little cynical. But yeah, I think the rest he just takes it face value.
Aside from his psychic powers, what is it that you found so compelling about Manfred?
That he was flawed and sort of reluctant to be a hero. The fact that it was such a hard thing to live with. I think he has a hard time controlling his powers, that it costs him very much. There's a whole, I think we see that in the first episode, that he pops pills, and so later on he has to deal with that addiction problem as well. And so there are a lot of elements with Manfred that sort of ground him to and make him, I think, relatable to real human beings.
What you were just saying, like, has some real issues, you know? He's like kind of a troubled bad boy.
Is that why why Creek is drawn to him?
That's probably part of why Creek is drawn to him. I mean, she has a really overprotective father, and she's probably looking for a little bit of excitement in her life, but I think it might be more than she bargained for. Like, throughout the season, I was like, so much stuff is happening to him. I don't think he'd be really emotionally available as a boyfriend, but...
Is the psychic and supernatural, is that something that you guys believe in?
Do you?
Sometimes. Depends. I could definitely I don't know if this is like psychic, but I could definitely, if I'm home alone, I'll get really scared and I'll be like, what was that? What was that?
Yeah, I tend to be more skeptical of these things, but I can definitely... I think I could... I sort of avoid these things because I think deep down I am scared of them. But on a more rational level, no, it's not something I partake in.
Right, like Pringles, like once you
have
stop,
one,
you have
to go
so you need to abstain.
In the first episode, Manfred's character is being chased by someone, and the question I kept having throughout the pilot was like, why does he keep answering his damn phone?
Well, he'll stop.
Yeah, because it's
soon enough.
This guy's chasing you. Why are you answering his calls?
I think there may have been a few scenes where he didn't answer the phone, but they ended up on the cutting room floor.
Or maybe he's a little bit in denial.
Or maybe they ended up on the cutting room floor.
Maybe he's picking up the phone. He's like thinks he's gonna be like, hey, hi Tower, how are you?
Yeah. Or maybe you're just trying to like be like in good faith, like I am gonna do whatever I need to do to rectify the situation. But
we'll have that. That time will come.
That time will come. I think that it's something that he, Manfred may have done something that he genuinely feels guilty about, and what? I can't say that.
I'm just saying, yeah.
And so I think he may have some empathy for the person who's chasing him.
Are we going to find that there's maybe some hidden, or there's more to Creek than we see in the first episode? Or is Creek
It's all out there. I'm just kidding. No, there's definitely more to Creek than we know, than meets the eye.
Very dark secrets. Don't you?
Because in the first episode, you say that when you were in high school, that the people said that you were like living with freaks. So are we going to find out what happened to her mother?
I don't know that the story about, you're going to find out what happened to her mother kind of is just the beginning of what you're going to find out about Creek's home life.
And then with the character storylines between the two of you, obviously there's a burgeoning romance. And every time guys are ready to like maybe get a little action and stuff, something gets interrupted. So what can you tell us about your relationship as it evolves?
They never make it to the first kiss. There's always
it's
something.
It's a running gag the whole way through. No, it's not true.
It's a running gag for a little while, and then
oh, I'm sorry, episode 2 is when you get it? No, just
is that episode 2?
Pretty much.
Yeah, end of episode 2.
I feel like they don't immediately know what's going to happen. I think
they just think like they just think of each other as like a really cute person.
Right, they have a crush, but I feel like Manfred's trying to get serious and Creek's like, no.
Well, not yet. I think Manfred's just lonely.
They're both two lonely souls.
But I think they will definitely learn to know each other and perhaps love each other in a deeper way, the deeper connection.
But there will always be
through the challenges that they face together,
and
through opening up about their dark pasts.
Thank you.
Thank you.